What's up, everyone? Tera Roberts here with Fantasy Alarm, and we are talking DFS bargains for Week 8. At quarterback this week, I am feeling Andy Dalton at just 5,500 on DraftKings. Andy Dalton is the new Jameis Winston, and that is not just because he literally took his starting spot. Last week, we saw what would be a classic Jameis Winston type of performance from Andy Dalton with 30 completions, 361 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Again, a very Jameis Winston type of performance. Against Las Vegas, he could repeat that type of performance. The Raiders give up the most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks, and you can pair him up with Chris Olave, who is not a bargain, for my video because it's outside of the range that I typically do for the video, but is definitely a value play at only 6,000 on DraftKings. So if you pair up Dalton and Olave, you're looking at just over 11K combined for a high upside quarterback with a guy who is wide receiver 15 in average points per game in PPR this year. At running back, the value range of 4,500 to 5,500 is just ugly this week. So instead of trying to force multiple running backs with a narrative, I'm just going to give you one option in this range, Donta Foreman. It's very simple with Foreman. Chuba Hubbard isn't practicing, and Foreman is likely to be the lead back. Last week, he had 15 carries for 118 yards and caught 2 passes for 27 yards. Atlanta is a more favorable matchup for quarterbacks and wide receivers, but that doesn't mean that Foreman can't have a productive game and be a good value. Moving on to wide receivers, Marquise Goodwin at 4,400 on DraftKings is worth a shot if DK Metcalf is unable to play. Goodwin had 4 receptions on 5 targets for 67 yards and 2 touchdowns last week. This isn't the best matchup in the world, as the Giants' defense has been pretty stingy in terms of fantasy points allowed, but I expect the offense to move pretty well with Kenneth Walker leading the charge on the ground, and all Goodwin needs is a decent amount of targets, just a decent amount, and a touchdown to pay off. Another option is Tre'Quan Smith at 4,400 on DraftKings. I wouldn't expect Michael Thomas or Jarvis Landry to play, and as previously mentioned, Chris Olave is the big play here, but I don't mind Smith in a very positive matchup against Las Vegas. Smith has had double-digit fantasy points in PPR for the past 2 games and is definitely taking advantage of his opportunities. He is a solid play. Wan'Dale Robinson is a weekly staple of my DFS bargains list, and this week he is just 4,700. Until his pricing catches up, I will continue to recommend him. He has had double-digit fantasy points 2 weeks in a row. His success in Week 6 came from a touchdown, and in Week 7, it was from 6 receptions on 8 targets. Robinson is healthy and will continue to garner targets, and he is a constant threat to score in a good matchup against Seattle. While others may be abandoning ship on the Indianapolis receivers with Matt Ryan out and Sam Ehlinger, now the Colts QB1, but I think Parris Campbell at 4,500 still has some value, and his ownership percentage should be non-existent. Campbell's usage has come on strong, and it hasn't just been him meshing well with Matt Ryan. Campbell's snap counts have increased to 198% in the last 2 games. Campbell has also been used closer to the line of scrimmage and less of a vertical threat like previous years, so I truly don't think that the quarterback change is going to make a major impact on him. And Washington is a good matchup. For a dart throw option in GPP, Braxton Berrios is 3,700 and kind of interesting on DraftKings. Berrios has yet to make a significant impact this season, but we've certainly seen him pop up randomly and put up big numbers in the past. With Corey Davis out and Breece Hall lost for the year, this could be one of those games. The Jets did add James Robinson, but he's unlikely to see a significant amount of workload in this game specifically. And the Jets love to use Berrios on the ground. A few good runs, some extra targets, and 1 touchdown is all we need. And we will end wide receivers with a 100% injury contingent situation to monitor. Mack Hollins could be the top option for Derek Carr this week, or at least one of the top options, at just 4,500 on DraftKings. Devontae Adams is dealing with a bad case of the flu. Waller is hurt. And Renfrow seems to have recovered from his injury, but his targets and his snap counts are down significantly. If Adams and Waller can't go, Hollins could be a fantastic value play for a guy who's playing the vast majority of snaps all season long. And at tight end, you can go right back to Juwan Johnson. Johnson wasn't on my list last week only because he was on the Thursday night game, so I couldn't use him. But I would have. He is poised to repeat his production again if Adam Trautman is out, because the Raiders, very similar to the matchup last week, give up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. Monitor Trautman's status and act accordingly, and play Johnson if Trautman is out. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to Fantasy Alarm. And of course, come back next week for another round of DFS bargains.